Hello kittens, how are we all today? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Welcome or welcome back to Trapped by Love. My name is Emma Carrington, and if you're interested in true crime and justice, you are in the right place. So I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button because we'd love to have you join our little community. By way of disclaimer, we discuss true crime cases involving domestic abuse and domestic homicide on this channel. So if that's not the kind of content you are looking for, I completely understand. Thanks for stopping by. I just want to say thank you to you all for your continued kindness and support, particularly after my last upload, and the fact that I've not been around in the last week or so. School holidays, they kick my butt. It's just me against a 7-year-old, so yeah, I'm a loser. But exciting news, I recently reached 1,500 podcast downloads, which is amazing. And if you are listening on any pod platform and ever want to see the images that go along with these cases, you can find us on YouTube at Trapped by Love. But wherever you are, please know that I appreciate you all. Just one more thing. I said a month or so back that I was going to upload some educational videos, sort of combine my channels, but I've had a rethink. I will just be adding the link to my initial channel, Surviving the Love Bomb, into the description box. So that's where you'll find all the educational resources, things like the cycle of violence and gaslighting and flying monkeys and all that sort of stuff. So anyone who's looking for more of an educational side to the domestic violence and learning and understanding a bit more there, anyone who's interested can go and check that out over on Surviving the Love Bomb. Please bear in mind that was my first channel, and some of those videos are terrible, so please be kind. But for today, I have a bit of a different setup for you precious people. I have 2 cases that I want to share with you. They're both cases that don't have a massive amount of media coverage out there about them, and that's probably in most part because they're Australian cases. The mainstream media doesn't do a great job of covering these types of crime. Sure, we have the huge noteworthy cases, for lack of a better word, over here, but the everyday cases don't receive a whole lot of attention in the news. So please bear with me. I have pulled as much information as I can to be able to share the cases that I have for you today. And our first case is that of Sandra Peniamina. Sandra was born in New Zealand. She was a part of a large, close and supportive family. That was until she met Arona Peniamina. While Sandra fell madly in love with the Samoan man, her family saw the danger. They knew that he was physically violent with her. And because any good abuser knows the first step in total control is isolation, Arona moved to Australia, with Sandra running away to live there with him. Sounds so romantic, doesn't it? Starting over in a new place with just you and your love. It can fix everything. Only it didn't. The couple's relationship was the same, just in a different place. And they wound up having 4 children in the space of 5 years. So in 2016, Sandra was living with her 4 children, aged between 5 and 10, and her husband, Arona Peniamina, in the suburb of Kippering in Queensland. She'd just returned from a trip home to see family in New Zealand, and her husband had it in his mind that she was cheating on him. A male friend had posted some photos of her holiday. She'd also taken to sleeping in the spare room, so of course she was having an affair. After a lengthy argument, Sandra got to the point where she would not discuss her husband's accusations anymore. This was when the 41-year-old Arona punched her in the head. Sandra fled the room and ran into the kitchen. She grabbed a knife to hold between them in the hopes of warding him off. It didn't, though. Arona grabbed the knife, the blade of the knife and cut himself. Surprising? Yeah, nah. But this angered him further, and he managed to gain control of the knife and proceeded to punch her again before stabbing her. Sandra sustained 29 sharp force injuries to her battered body, 15 to her head alone, with 6 penetrating her skull, and 1 slashing her from nose to chin, exposing her nasal septum. When she tried to escape, he chased her, threw her onto the driveway and kicked her before caving her head in with a concrete bollard. The handle of the knife was found under the car, the blade was nearby, and at autopsy, the tip of the knife was found embedded in Sandra's skull. A neighbour heard the screaming and, after asking his mother to call 000, went out to investigate. He saw Sandra crumpled in the driveway and also witnessed Arona crouched in the darkness. As the neighbour approached, he saw the man head back into the house. This vicious attack was witnessed by one of the couple's 4 boys, which is just so heartbreaking. Arona was charged with Sandra's murder, to which he pled not guilty. But he doesn't deny causing her death. He offered to plead guilty to manslaughter, but this was rejected by the prosecution. So in 2018, he was found guilty and sentenced to life. However, the verdict was thrown out on appeal, and in 2021, he was granted a new trial. At the end of the retrial held in Brisbane, 11 of the 12 jurors found Peniamina guilty of the lesser charge of manslaughter after they were unable to come to a unanimous decision on a murder conviction. The jury found the prosecution had proven the 4 elements of murder, but they accepted Peniamina's partial defence of provocation, that he deliberately killed his wife after a sudden provocative act. So they accepted that it was a provoked, spontaneous reaction. He was found guilty of manslaughter. And yes, this was the case that I was talking about when I covered Sophie Elliott's case the other week. This piece of garbage was then sentenced to 16 years instead of life, because he says he lost control when his wife picked up a knife. Mate, she picked up a knife because you punched her in the face. You're the dimwit who grabbed the pointy end and cut yourself. But no, it's her fault. This was all about him thinking that Sandra was having an affair. Control. And the fact that she was not in his control. And I'm not one to advocate for extramarital entanglements, but I don't care if your partner's going at it on the kitchen counter. It doesn't give you the right to end their life. You may want to, but really? Provoked into murder? The Domestic Violence Prevention Centre didn't hold back on their view, posting on social media, quote, "As the victim of a brutal murder, Sandra is still considered responsible for her own death because she wounded the murderer while trying to defend herself from being murdered, thereby causing Mr. Peniamina to lose his self-control. In what other realm of the criminal code would this be accepted? One of the hardest things for a victim of domestic violence to reconcile with is the feeling that they are at fault," says Beyond DV's Carolyn Robinson. She goes on to say, "If you look at the power and control wheel, minimizing and denying and blaming is one of those elements. And so a lot of women, through coercive control and that pattern of behavior over weeks, months and years, have been led to believe by their partners that it's because of their actions that their partner reacted in such an abusive way. This defense only cements that feeling. 15 years from now, who knows where we might be? Wouldn't it be fantastic if domestic violence were considered not the norm anymore? A bit like not wearing seatbelts or drink driving. People just don't do it anymore," she said. And that's what I'm striving to achieve with this channel, If we're all a bit more aware and a little more educated, hopefully we can be or raise the generation who brings domestic violence to an end. Sandra's boys are now living in New Zealand with her family. Sandra's cousin says, quote, "These boys were her pride and joy. That's probably the thing that hurts me the most, that she's leaving those boys behind. It's pretty sad. She loved those boys and she sacrificed a lot," end quote. And that is what's so very tragic about this case and all the others like it. The poor children who are left behind to pick up the pieces and find their way through the trauma of losing one parent at the hands of another. As for our second case today, it is that of 25-year-old Eden Kennett. Eden was in a relationship with 30-year-old Bradley Wayne Trussell in December of 2018 and living in Mount Gambier. Theirs was a dysfunctional union that involved many altercations, but that all came to a head on the 13th of December when Bradley beat his girlfriend with a metal pole for using his phone. This young lady was beaten with a metal pole because she used her partner's phone. The beating resulted in blunt force trauma, broken ribs, and a lacerated liver. Eden was airlifted to Royal Adelaide Hospital, but she was declared brain dead the next day. Bradley pleaded guilty to Eden's manslaughter, but not guilty to her murder, and was ordered to stand trial. During sentencing submissions, the court heard Eden had been a victim of sustained abuse at the hands of Bradley, who also had a history of domestic violence against a former partner in Queensland. Justice Anne Brampton said she rejected the suggestion that Bradley, who had no injuries, had acted in self-defense and that Eden had self-harmed and accidentally fallen. Okay, I can almost reconcile this dumb shit who has beaten someone so severely to come out with something like that. But seriously, you want to tell me a defense attorney standing up before the court and saying that? I can't get my head around it was manslaughter because she self-harmed and she accidentally fell to the point that she had broken ribs and a lacerated liver. These people go to school for a really long time, and that's what you're going to stand up in front of the judge and say. I mean, seriously, judges must have some sort of pill that they take of a morning so that they don't just laugh in the face of these people. Like, even just watching Elaine in court in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, the amount of times that you just want to go, what? Is this connected in any way? Do you know what you're saying? Because that is ridiculous. So anyway, that didn't fly. The court heard that after the assault, Trussell showered an unconscious Eden, dressed her, and put her in the car before driving to his sister's house. Not to the hospital, to his sister's house. He told the court that he drove to his sister's house before taking her to the hospital because he was scared and he didn't know that it was life and death. You beat her unconscious with a pole, you fucking moron. Justice Brampton also stated that Trussell gave evidence about how Eden was seizuring and convulsing on the floor in the kitchen and how he had smoked a cone because he believed she was faking it. She says, "You said you left her on the ground for about 5 minutes and then you rushed to see if she was okay." Going on to say, "You said she was unresponsive, so you picked her up and put her on the edge of the bed. Then you carried her to the shower, dropping her twice while she was still unconscious." Bradley Trussell was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life with a minimum non-parole period of 20 years. And even though the defendant's criminal history was 2 pages long, the defence was pleading for a lighter sentence. In response to this, Justice Brampton said there were no special circumstances warranting a term below the legislated minimum. Can I get a hallelujah bravo for Justice Brampton? Round of applause. Oh my goodness, someone finally. Both Eden's mum, Tammy Simpson, and her sister, Shana, are still struggling to find peace since her murder. This tragedy haunts them and affects their lives daily. But Tammy said after the verdict was read, quote, "Justice has been served for Eden today. We need more outcomes like this in domestic and family violence. It needs to stop," end quote. And she's not wrong. It needs to stop. The world over. So that is all I have for you, lovely people. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on these cases. So please let me know what you think in the comments box below, on Twitter or Discord, the links to which are in the show notes. If the content of these cases has raised any concerns for you regarding your own relationship or that of a loved one, please reach out for help. Please, please, please. There is a list of resources in the show notes and the description box below. My aim in covering these cases is to honour the victims of these crimes and to get their stories out there in the hopes of warning others who may face similar situations. The hope is the more people who recognise the red flags and warning signs of abusive relationships, the less prevalent these cases will be in the future. I thank you again for joining me this week, and until next time, please take care of yourselves and be kind to one another. Bye.